Hey, thanks for checking us out. This is Sports and Other Stuff. You can find us on Spreaker, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. We have a new episode every week. We have more than 100 in the can, so check it out. Thanks for being a part of it. Just subscribe. Thanks a million.
T-Dog, J-Boy, and me, I'm Lugs. Our pride and joy is pumping our mugs. Be careful, kids, it could get rough. We're flipping our lids on sports and other stuff.
Welcome to Sport Weasel Central. I'm Lugs.
I'm J-Boy.
And I'm T-Dog.
That's right. We're back. Sports and other stuff. Fellas, how are you? It's good to be back here. We have men's and women's NCAA champs. NFL news, Bruce Arians retires. That means Todd Bowles is no longer just a coach in waiting. And just for Lugs, regular season baseball starts this week. But fellas, good to see you boys. Okay, Lugs, your UNC Tar Heels missed it by that much. What was it, 3 points? Let's get your reflection on the game as Kansas is crowned the national champions. What the heck?
Well, I got to say, it would have been nice for the Heels to win that game, but the game that mattered, they won. They sent Coach K off into the sunset crying all the way, baby. So that's all that matters. And Kansas, once again, proved that U of L was wrong. U of L should have denied everything and said, we don't care what the NCAA, because Kansas wins a national championship while all these allegations are out there. And U of L, who, took a knee and went away, is still paying 7 years later. So those are my major takeaways from the NCAA. Sorry to see the Lady Cards go, but they got beat by the team, South Carolina. Those ladies are all professional players.
And the words of Mick and Rocky, they're a wrecking machine, Rock. I mean, South Carolina, they beat UConn handily. They beat U of L handily. So deserved champs for the South Carolina Gamecocks on the women's side. But a question, did Armando, say his last name again? Yeah, did he slip on that floor because there was a bad spot? Is there a lawsuit pending here?
No.
You're good with that?
I don't know
You're
about
good?
a lawsuit, but they did the replay, and you could see him stepping on his teammate's ankle.
All right.
To turn his ankle.
Dang it, social media had it going that it was the bad floor. So listen to me.
Okay, well.
But Kansas, aren't they the team most people, do they love them or hate them? I don't know on that. Where does Kansas sit in the national psyche?
I don't think most people know what Kansas is, but they hate Bill Self. I'll say that.
I agree with Lugs on that. I think they hate more Bill Self. Kansas, they're definitely, I guess if you really follow college basketball, if you're from another, I guess, blue blood, you probably don't like them. But I don't think there's the tangible hate that there is with like Duke or UNC or Kentucky as Kansas. Because those are so strong there, it's not associated with Kansas. It's not even in the top three. So I'd agree with Lugs.
Plus, it's out there in the middle of nowhere more than any place on earth, maybe. So maybe it's a hate of the Bill Self. Maybe it's hate thyself.
Whoa.
Oh, jeez.
By the way, friends and I watched the game on Zoom. So it's a plug for Zoom. But we were calling it the Roy Williams Invitational.
Hey, I like that. All right, we're being recorded here, and we're on, anyhow. How did you watch it on Zoom? Can you talk about that, or is that off the record?
No, I mean, we were watching at a TV set, but we had each other up on Zoom, and we were all cheering and screaming. I
was looking for a copyright infringement. That's what
no, sir. I don't think so.
Oh, okay. I didn't want to have to turn you in just on my own volition. All right, so anything else about that? It's always next year. Team field of 68. 385 teams will tip it off again in October, and we'll see what happens.
And the St. Peter's guys are already bailing. I assume that they're going to Seton Hall.
I saw that. How many? 2 or 3, wasn't it?
It's the 3 top those guards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Mr. Holloway got himself a nice fat contract at Seton Hall for over $2 large a year. So good for him. Sad for St. Peter's, but he did all right.
Yeah, well,
All right.
I mean, for a school of 2,000 students, I think that's pretty good. He did what he did them very well, very well.
So the rumor of him becoming John Calipari's assistant, that's not going to happen?
I'm not sure that Calipari's going to be at UK after this, but you know.
Wait a minute! Breaking news. What are you saying?
If you listen to any of the call-in shows, you got a lot of folks who are saying, "Hey, he's washed up. It's time we move off of him and get us a real coach." So, you know, go Big Blue Nation. Get yourself a real coach.
So you're saying the ploy where he usually does, hey, this NBA team sniffing, give me a raise. You're saying they're like, no, go. Is that what you're trying to tell me, Lugs?
I believe so. It's
Okay.
like, go headlong, buddy.
All right, breaking news. You heard it. You got it first here on Sports and Other Stuff. John Calipari is out.
Breaking rumors.
Breaking wind is more like what we do here. Okay, let's move it on and move it along to the NFL. You want to, T-Dog, you want to talk about Bruce Arians a little bit there? What's up with that? Is this a Tom Brady move behind the curtain? You know, us conspiracy guys, of which Lugs has never been one, I don't think. But, you know, we all think that things are happening behind the scenes sometimes.
Yeah, I just find parts of it are really fascinating. You know, I mean, he named Todd Bowles his head coach, who was his assistant when he was in Arizona, who then got a head coach with the Jets. And to be fair, during his tenure with the Jets, the rosters, except for like his first year where I believe they went 10-6 and didn't make the playoffs, it was pretty much a train wreck. And even then, his best quarterback was Ryan Fitzpatrick, who's had moments, but in general, year to year has not been consistently great. I mean, Tom Brady is definitely a step up from Ryan Fitzpatrick, Josh McCown, and Sam Darnold. Those were his 3 quarterbacks with the Jets. Even at 45, he's better than any of those guys. I think if you look at his coaching staff, a lot of his coaching staff is would be considered minority hires. So, like, I do legitimately buy that he wants to help Todd Bowles and give him a shot. And also, I think there is a weird kind of rule where if you think about it, they didn't really have to do the Rooney Rule because they waited so long to him retire. It's obviously already like deep into March when that happened, into April. I forget where the cutoff is, but I think there's a cutoff where you don't have to go through all of the Rooney. So maybe they'll adjust that. But anyway, I think that part's legitimate. The part that I find interesting is he was going to be the head coach after Brady retired. Brady then comes back after just retired or whatever you want to call it. Yeah.
Vacation.
He comes back, and then Arians decides to step back and take. So I do buy the legitimacy that he wants to give Todd Bowles a shot because I think he's maybe one of the coaches he's closest to, but also buy into some of it that there's definitely something there with Tom Brady that if Tom Brady was going to come back, then Bruce Arians would have to step down to some. I feel it's true.
Yeah, I think Brady's at the age where he didn't want to be yelled at in like a Monday morning meeting by a coach. He just wants to come in and essentially set the tone. People show up, be prepared the way he has always been prepared. And if he gets one more year, that's gravy. And with him, they have, as bad as that division is, they still have a chance of making a decent run in the playoffs and maybe a Super Bowl. Who knows? And without him, they ain't nowhere, baby. Who's the backup? Is it Brian Hoyer again? I mean, I don't know.
Well, that was one of the other things that was really kind of interesting too, is Charles Robinson, I believe of Yahoo Sports, he speculated the Bucks might be interested in Baker Mayfield. Now, obviously, I don't think they're going to be willing to take him on if they have to pay his whole contract, which that was ridiculous. The Browns want a second-round pick and someone to take on his whole contract. It's like the musical chairs have stopped. You have no leverage. Like, you got to accept whatever anyone's willing to give you for Baker. You're just trying to get out from under Baker at this point. You don't really have options to tell people what you want, But anyway, I find that fascinating because obviously it looks like there's still some view in it where obviously in that 6-week window, they saw like, oh, shoot, we don't have a backup plan if we lose, obviously, because they didn't have a good enough draft pick to draft a quarterback in this upcoming draft. Luckily for them, Brady came back. But what if Brady just comes back for 1 year and leaves? So I get the idea that maybe they believe in, Baker being their long-term. But it's just, I don't know. I just find those elements kind of interesting. And kind of like you said division. I mean, conference, you look at the conference. I mean, Aaron Rodgers lost his best receiver. I mean, and his current receivers, his best wide receiver is Alan Lazard, who I know he likes and respects, but has never been more than a adequate, solid receiver. He's never been a 1,000-yard receiver. And then you look at the Rams. I mean, maybe they'll re-sign Odell Beckham, but they lost Von Miller, which was a big loss. So I think it's wide open for the Bucs to get back to the Super Bowl 2 years later.
I mean, didn't really Aaron Rodgers lose his best friend? Isn't that kind of like, kindergarten stuff?
Well,
hey.
I don't know.
Go ahead.
But Aaron, I just wonder. I mean, he got the big money, but where are they going to find those bucks to buy people to put around him now? I just don't see
draft.
Well, that's what I was going to say to you all. Just the one thing that's really oddly fascinating to me is just how many teams it feels like are willing to give up a high amount of draft capital and money for wide receivers. We didn't talk about Miami. They got Tyreek Hill for a first-round pick, a second-round pick, a fourth-round pick, a 2023 fourth-round pick, and sixth-round pick to the Chiefs. And then they paid him $120 million, $72 million guaranteed for 4 years. Then you look at the Chiefs. Supposedly they're looking for an experienced number one, so they supposedly are kind of sniffing around on DK Metcalf. Other teams are sniffing around on Houston's Brandon Cooks. He has at least 1,000 yards receiving in 6 out of his 8 years. Teams are monitoring Terry McLaurin's contract with Washington. In his 3 years, he had at least 900 yards receiving, and he's only 27. And just recently, the Patriots received Devontae Parker for a fifth-round pick, and and they gave away a third-round pick in next year's draft to the Dolphins. And we already had the big trades for Amari Cooper to the Cleveland Browns and Devontae Adams to the Vegas. What do you all attribute this to? I mean, obviously in the Super Bowl, we had two teams that had awesome wide receiver cores. You had the Bengals with Jamar Chase and Higgins and Boyd, and then you had Cooper Kupp and you had OBJ. And or just do you all think it's more kind of going back to drafting a wide receiver? I think there's some very talented wide receivers in this class, but it feels like with them willing to give up so much draft capital and money, is it because there's a lot of question marks with these guys? Not that they can't be stud wide receivers, but it feels like they really question how good these guys can be.
Well, I mean, if you look at I was just thinking about the college receivers that are coming out. I guess Ohio State's Garrett Wilson or Chris Olave maybe. Alabama, Jamison Williams is a good receiver. There's some talent there. I think the top end of this year's draft probably is defensive line, followed by receivers, and then quarterback is way down just as far as the numbers and the quality. But receiver-wise, I think the top 3 or 4 they can step right in and play.
And don't you think that they're all following the model of Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase, where we can get these veteran guys out, let's get a new kid